Hello, hello. So another episode of the MBG Chats, a sub-series of the Master in Business Growth podcast. And today I'm joined by Katie Ward, who is the owner of Microbz. Hope I'm saying that right, because I know there's a Z at the end.
You did that.
And excellent. Problem over. Interview done. And we're going to be getting into it. We're going to be getting into sort of like health, nutrition, and hopefully some unearthing some myths maybe around the gut and some stuff that's kind of like quite close to my interests right now. So without further ado, Katie, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about the business and how you've got to be where you are today.
I'm Katie. Oh, you said that really well. Most people say microbiz, so Microbz is perfect. We've actually been operating for about 20 years, so it's been quite a long time. I've been at the helm for about 2 years, and I've been working for the business for about 5 years. So it was started by my mum and dad, and about 10 years ago, I remember my mum saying, gosh, how are we going to explain this gut health thing to people? It makes sense to us, but there's all the, how are we going to tell people there's all these microbes in their stomach, and that's how they digest food? That gets made into short chain fatty acids, which makes people healthy. And we were thinking, how are we going to do that? But luckily the tide has changed in our favor, and now people just know exactly, they understand their gut health and how important it is for all aspects of health and mental health. So that's really exciting. But we also talk at Microbz about what we call a probiotic life. So how to live more in tune with microbes in all areas of our lives.
Right. So in terms of microbes then within the gut, because I hear a lot of people, they call it, they call it the first brain, they call it the second brain. We talk about gut feelings and all this kind of thing. What is actually going on in there, like as concisely as you can sort of like pack it down, but like what is really going on in there, and like what is the true effect of like what's going on in terms of what we eat and the chemical reaction that's going on down?
So I'd say there's a couple of really key aspects of this. One is the gut-brain connection. So you have a nerve called the vagus nerve, which goes from your gut to your brain, and it's a bi-directional channel. So your brain talks to your gut and your gut talks to your brain, and that is kind of as a microbial process. So people who have depression or who have issues when it comes to their mental health, studies show they also have decreased diversity in their gut. So that's one area that is really being researched in terms of how we can use diets and beneficial microbes to support mental health. And we can see this really clearly when we think about being scared for a talk or being nervous for something. Quite a lot of people have a physical reaction to that mental experience. And for me, it just shows how much things are connected, and on the opposite side of that, my question has always been around this. If we were to think more positively, if we were to change the way that our brain works, that could also have an impact on your gut health, so the benefits of kind of good routines and those kind of things that put our mental health in a better state also impact our body. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. But on the other side of it, in terms of the gut, how it all works, there's the leaky gut hypothesis, which is basically that in order for your gut to work, and your gut goes all the way from your mouth to your bottom, so let's not forget the mouth and acid reflux, and there's lots of kind of places along that route that can get into problems. But generally speaking, when you get into the lower parts of the gut, this is the place where the incredible process of food becoming human body occurs. So I know what you ate this morning, but whatever you ate this morning is in the process of becoming you. So blood and brain and muscle and all the aspects of you. And that is a microbial process. So it is the microbes in the gut lining that support the process of making your food into you, which I just think is magical. And if your gut is too leaky, then you can get inflammation, basically.
You see, inflammation, that's a big key word that I hear a lot around not just diet, but around diet, gut. And, because personally, I used to have a lot of knee problems. And as soon as I sorted my diet out, a lot of those problems went away, weirdly enough. Started exercising properly, safely. And a lot of those problems went away because I was able to, I don't know, something physiologically changed so that a lot of those went away. But I think it was mainly weight related. But so the doctor said anyway. They didn't actually say it was anything to do with diet. They just said it was potentially about weight, but I think they were kind of right. So your parents then, starting this quite a while ago, like how were they so ahead of the curve? Like what were they doctors, health professionals? Like what was their interest?
That's a very good question. So my parents were actually both counsellors, and my dad had a job where he was working for an investor who had a decent amount of cash, who wanted to invest in eco projects. But every time he did, he would have a relationship issue with the people he was trying to invest in. So he hired dad to help him kind of like smooth over the relationship part of it. And so dad went around the world with this guy and saw loads of eco projects, like making clothes out of plastic in Africa and all these things. And he went to Australia and found what was then called microbial balancing technology. With the way that we work, we're not about killing microbes, we're about adding more beneficial microbes to kind of bring the environment into balance where it can thrive. And dad just said he thought it was like a light bulb moment for him, and he just thought this is such a massive solution for health issues and environmental issues. And he came back and he said to mum, do you fancy just trying to start to do this on the kitchen table? And that just grew and grew. And we work with a medical herbalist on the herbal side of it, and now we've got a large factory and 25 people and a bottling line and a business. So
That's incredible.
yeah, it just kind of grew naturally out of his passion.
I think it's really interesting that they were counsellors. That because obviously they're dealing with people who are probably dealing with things like depression, anxiety, stuff going on in the brain that is affecting, maybe trauma as well, and all those kinds of different sort of like mental aspects that would then sort of materialize or sort of manifest themselves into physiological things like maybe substance abuse or, alcoholism or something like that. So there's, even though it seems, to me, I think that's really interesting, because then you were talking about how the gut and the brain work together and the other way round. So being that bi-directional tract, actually they're coming at it from the brain point of view. And yeah, that just seems really interesting. Did they make that immediate connection all those years ago then?
It's taken a long time. At the beginning, my mum was kind of like, why have we got these two kind of separate businesses? And they realised, as they went through, that it's the same thing, just looking at it from a different perspective. So yes, you can sit in a counselling session and talk to somebody about what's in your brain, and that in theory would have an impact on your gut health. Or you can go to a medical professional or a dietitian and get something for your gut, and in theory that would support your mental health. So yes, we come to realise the two aspects are connected, and so that's where we get to a kind of holistic idea of health. Health isn't just about one aspect or one issue, it's about a whole systems approach, and we can take that from the individual but also for the kind of wider society. So for us, we're really interested in, why do people need to take so many supplements? What's happened to our food system, which now means that we need to take magnesium and zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D. And that's why we work with regenerative farmers too, because we want to put more microbes back into soils, which is all about growing healthy food. So that's the kind of other systems approach.
I mean, I guess I'm very wary of simple answers to very complex problems, but it's cost cutting, isn't it? Cost cutting along with trying to maintain profit margins while trying to still feed a growing population. I would probably put those things together, and something's got to give with that, hasn't it? And in the cases of like big food conglomerates and corporations, I presume health kind of goes down the Swanee in terms of that, and then obviously that benefits big pharma in the end, doesn't it? Because then we need to buy medication and supplements.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is strange.
Strange, yeah. I think one of the issues is that we, for the last 20, 30 years, we've been living in a chemical system which has been telling us to kill 99.9% of bacteria, which is a bit like the war on drugs. You can't kill the war on drugs. You just, whatever you do, it makes them bigger and badder. And that's the system we have with microbes. You try and kill them in hospitals and you create MRSA, and you try and kill them in the fields where we're growing our crops, and you eat crops that don't have any nutritional value. So what we're talking about hopefully in the next 20 years is that we go back to a biological system, a probiotic system in all areas, which means working with the microbes that are already there and that you can't kill anyway with a probiotic solution. Antibiotics are kind of in your body, in your home, in your food. So we're really talking about a change in all of those environments.
It's a huge pendulum to swing, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
You
You
have
know
your
what
work cut out for sure.
the hardest thing is telling people not to clean their toilets with bleach or with stuff, because people are like, I can't not clean my toilet with something that isn't going to really kill all those bad bugs.
Well, it's funny actually that because getting on to the topic of poo and which is essentially is a really good I don't want to turn this into a I'm gonna say I don't want to turn this into a crap conversation. Excuse the pun. But poo's really important though, isn't it? Like for because there was that whole thing for a while of people having like injections or like like poo replacement, having other people's poo like inserted into them and to improve their intestinal tract and all that kind of stuff. Can you shine any light on that and like how that might? Because that you mentioning the toilet thing just reminded me of that, and I'm personally morbidly interested in that.
There's quite a few companies that create probiotics from fecal transplants. So they really have to screen people carefully, because what they found is if you take somebody with depression, for example, and you take their fecal matter and put that into somebody who doesn't have depression over a certain period of time, that manifests in the new person. So that shows us how crucial our microbiomes are in terms of, if I was to take a pill from your fecal transplant, I might end up with some of your characteristics or some of your kind of health concerns, which is phenomenal. So they
Okay,
have to
this is really
really
interesting now. This is really, I'm gonna, can we get the fecal matter of Jeff Bezos? And that's such a weird thing to say, but can I have some of his characteristics? Is that even possible?
like genetic manipulation through poo. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
is that
I
even
think
possible?
they're looking for the people that are really healthy, who have the healthiest markers, and taking their fecal matter and dehydrating it, turning it into powder and putting it into a pill and giving it to people for. And I think the guy James is the guy who's done the most research into it, but he can really make quite big strides into issues like Parkinson's and big health concerns with that kind of technology. So it has a lot of potential. I mean, from our perspective, we make our probiotics from soil rather than going to someone else's internal microbiome. We harvest our probiotics from organic soil. So just different ways.
And what about? So I presume, obviously, we don't. Uh, I'm making a presumption, but you can absolutely curb me on my in my track here. Um, what about children? Do we supplement children? That in terms of their microbiome, because I'm very hyper aware, being a father of two myself. It's very very hard to give children an incredibly diverse and healthy diet, especially if you're maybe cash strapped or if you are in a low income household, or even it just convenience in the world that we live in now. The food that we're feeding our kids is incredibly, well, it's way different than we might have had when we were younger. So in terms of supplementing children's microbiome, is that a thing? Is that something we should be doing? Is that something that Microbz does, like provide supplements for that?
Yeah, we have supplements for kids, and I get stopped at the school gate quite often by parents who have tried it, who say, "Thank you so much," partly because their kids aren't off school sick as much as they used to be. So there's an immunity question here. And I would say you're exactly right. The studies that we saw at Groundswell say things like the carrots that you eat today have much less nutrients in than they did 20 years ago. So you may need to eat 20 carrots today to get the nutrition value that you got from one carrot 20 years ago. So our generation kind of still had quite healthy food, and then also the UPFs that we have more bad stuff in them. So Nutella isn't the same as it was 20 years ago, and Coke isn't the same. They have more additives. So within this environment, this is why I think changes in the food system are so important, because we need to get that nutrient density back into foods. That we can't go down a road where we just supplement it forever. We need to kind of start reversing the problem.
Yeah.
In the meantime, yes, both of my kids have taken a probiotic. I've taken our probiotic since they were about one, as a supplement to their diet for their mental health and physical health. And it comes back to that immunity question. I think you'll know if your child needs something if they're constantly getting sick. It's the litmus test. It's like every 2 weeks do they have a cold, or every few months do they have a cold. I mean, kids is part of growing your immune system. You need to get sick when you're a kid. That's the part of the process. But if you're not then getting well and staying well, then that shows some kind of deficiency in nutrition or
Interesting. So coming to the business of Microbz, then obviously you say it's been going for around 20 years and you've been at the helm for around 2. What's with this being sort of around business growth, and we're trying to understand what the levers that different businesses pull in order to grow over time. What's been the biggest growth lever for you guys? Like in terms of, I mean, obviously something must have been the leader, something must have gone really well to still be going after 20. So what is that, and has that changed over time? Is that, obviously we live in a wildly different age. We're in the digital age, and D2C is incredibly mainstream in business now. But for Microbz specifically, what's working for you right now?
So I'll start with the trajectory, and then talk about what's working right now. So basically, for the first 15 years of our existence, we were a very small cottage industry. So we made everything on our farm, and we had one outbuilding where we had a couple of fermenters, and we sold, 50, 100 bottles a month, and we were kind of happy there. And then our old managing director kind of sat us down about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, and said, do you want to just stay like this, or do you want to step up? And we kind of looked at each other and went, okay, let's do it. So we borrowed some money and we built this big factory, which was a labor of love and a big process. And now we've got lots of fermenters and a big bottling line and dispatch center and all this stuff. And then we were like, oh, we now need to fill this. We now need to sell, because we need to, this is expensive rent wise. We need to kind of fill this up, and we want to get to a place where it's kind of, pumping out lots of bottles and really helping people. And I think me and mum and dad are quite naturally slightly introverted, maybe. We'd be quite happy kind of messing around with microbes and herbs and kind of sitting on the farm and having a nice time. But we hired somebody called Francesca, who's really changed the face of the business. And she was like, you have to get out. You have to go to events. You have to talk to people. You have to tell people what you're doing. You have to go online. And I think that kind of decision that we were going to step outside our comfort zone and go to the places and speak on the panels and do the podcasts and tell people about what we're doing, because we are really passionate about it. We're passionate about the health of people and the health of the environment and the food system. And if we can start creating change or supporting people, then that's great. And the thing that keeps us going on that path is the feedback. I mean, hearing from people that it's changing their lives, it's changing their animals' lives, it's changing the farmers' lives. I mean, that is just heaven, just to hear that people are noticing a difference, feeling better. That means that we're doing something that is hopefully valuable, and there's a lot of need out there. So we'll just keep doing it while people still need it.
Amazing. Well, it sounds like we all need a Francesca, don't we? And we all need that managing director as well, who can literally ask the tough questions. That's really, in terms of like sort of tactical, obviously getting out there and talking more and being more visible as a business, and I kind of agree with what Francesca said. Obviously, doing things like podcasts are really important, but I think from your perspective, looking outside in, I would almost like sort of go one step further and go, it's your obligation to talk about what you do, because it's so important. If you weren't spreading the message, would you truly be, sort of serving your mission in terms of what Microbz is all about?
I completely agree, and we talk about it a lot internally. We get really fired up about it. We're kind of, what if UK soils were like full of fungi and microbes, and they're growing these carrots that are really nutrient dense, and they're feeding these people who don't need supplements anymore. And, it's like really exciting stuff. And it's about the self belief, I guess, and the confidence and the kind of, I think what we've learned in 2 years has given us a grounding to want to do it more, because it's well received and we're getting good feedback. So it's like every time you venture a little bit, you get the assurance that it's okay, and then you keep doing more. And next stop, Jeff Bezos's office.
Well, I was just about to say, in terms of retail, are you stocked in quite large retailers? Are you in supermarkets? Like, what's the sort of blend or the split in terms of retail versus online? Like, how do you kind of split that, and what is the biggest lever for you?
So we probably do about 50% of our business on our website, and then we do another kind of 15% on Amazon and 15% on trade, and then 30, probably another 10% on white label. So we make white label products. And then we have our agriculture stuff, which has just started. So that's probably about 5%. So that's livestock probiotics and probiotics for farms to put on their soils and crops. So that's the bit that we want to grow, but that takes some investment because it's just a new area. Using probiotics in farming is new. So we were always told that if we wanted to be really successful, what we should do is take our top 3 products. We have top Microbz Revive, Microbz Sustain, Microbz Women, and just suck off everything else essentially and just sell loads of those. So every branding agency, every sales company that's ever come to us has always said, if you really want to grow quickly, just take those 3 products and invest in them and go for it. Now we've got 10 products in our gut health range, and then probably another 15 products in our kind of animal gardening cleaning range, and then we've got our agricultural range. So we've gone against the tide in that sense and stuck to our values of this kind of probiotic life, in the bet that people are going to start catching on that we need to move away from antibiotic systems to more probiotic systems in every area, not just in gut health.
I mean, what's nice there actually, and it's, again, I don't really want to sort of go into the realm of really crap puns or anything like that, but I think very much like a healthy microbiome and a healthy business, it sounds like you're really diversified. Like, it sounds like you've got, a lot of it is owned within the website and it, the various traffic levels that will come to that site and distribution from there. But then a retail side, a white label side, it sounds like it's really diversified. And how do you keep on top of all of those little areas? Do you have people in place looking after those specific areas of the business, or is it kind of we all muck in and just sort it all out?
We do all muck in, but so 1 year ago I hired my first salesperson, and then about 8 months ago I hired my agriculture manager, and then I've had about a social media person for about a year. But, there was a lot of me doing everything in the beginning, and now we've got great people who are doing their bits really well, and it's hard for us, but it's hard for them because we're a bit different to your average probiotic because we're soil based. So in terms of breaking into the market in both agriculture and in kind of trade, in terms of breaking into the kind of really big retailers, we need to prove the case for why a diverse probiotic from soil rather than a single strain from a laboratory. So we're still kind of working on that process, and I think research really comes into this a lot. So we're starting those conversations, and it's the kind of area that is just really popular now with research, and that's going to be key for us, I think.
I think this might sound like a really stupid question, but I presume that like a lot of you do a lot of your own research, and in terms of qualifications, like how we all know how sort of like the red tape within research and trying to get information out there, and I mean everything that's happening with AI, there's a lot of misinformation out there. How do you get your research, if you do it on site, if you do it within your own company? How are you getting that out there, and how are you making sure that it's trusted?
Good question. There's 2 different research areas for us we're trying to do in-house. One is like about the product. So our product is soil based, and we test it a lot. So we test it for the CFU counts, we test it for the bacterial strains, we test it for any pathogens. Now, because it's soil based, we know a lot of the microbes in there. We keep on getting our same 15 families, but there are also other beneficial microbes in there, and there's we only know about 1 or 2% of microbes, so you can probably safely say there's a lot that haven't yet been sequenced that are probably part of that soil mix. So we still continue to develop that product level, and that's where we're complicated because we haven't taken strains out to send them to a lab to test them for Alzheimer's or for this specific thing, which is where the kind of world of probiotics is, which X strain does Y. when actually we live in a much more complex world, and these microbes have been cooperating for 3.5 billion years. So, there's a relational symbiosis going on with the way that they work, in our opinion. So that's one aspect, to the product level. And I think we're going to learn a lot about probiotics in the next 10, 15 years. There's already a plethora of information. And then the other side is we do a lot of feedback from our customers, because if we can't, if the product is complex, which we know it is, then we need to really keep an eye on how it's working for people. So we survey them quite a lot, and we get feedback quite a lot. And we just did quite a big survey, and we got some great results that people, 97% of people would recommend us to a friend, and 92% saw a change in their gut health in 6 months. So we're encouraged by that feedback, and we'll continue to do that. And what we're kind of looking for is, and we have this in the wings a little bit, is a research institution that is interested in the power of probiotics from soil and wants to work with us to kind of see the impacts, rather than kind of specific individual strains that are lab made. So
Amazing.
there's work to do.
Yeah, but I what I really like about that, just from hearing it, is that you just interviewing your own customer base. There's academic research that clearly needs to be done, but then it's just actually researching your own customer base and looking at the effects that it's having on them. Because I think the way that a lot of marketing is working and the way a lot of product-based research is going is that it has to be incredibly nuanced, because everybody's different. Everybody is their own ecosystem, right? And it's, they all work very, very differently. So what works for one isn't going to work for another. So being able to, survey them and get their individual results and be able to look at those, I think that's really interesting. And I don't think a lot of businesses do that. And probably more so within, health and wellness, actually, weirdly enough. It's like, here's a product. We think this will work. Go taste it. No, it doesn't taste very good. But I remember tasting Huel for the first time, and it tastes like chalk. And I don't think they did a lot of customer research in the beginning.
I got that one from, I went to the thing the other day with Gusto, and they do a lot. They focus on their customer right at the heart of their business model. So like always going back to them. I was really inspired by that.
So what's next for Microbz then? Like in terms of, you're a 25 strong team, big factory, bottling line, doing very, very well by the sounds of it. What's next? What's the big milestone you want to hit next?
So I want to fill my factory. So I want to sell gut health products. I mean, that's not my aim is to really see more people's health being impacted. Taking a step up to being able to sell on kind of a bigger scale would be number one. And then really doing this pharma piece. So, our kind of ethos as a company is, yes, we all need more microbes in our bodies, but we also need more microbes in our soils and our farming system, so that we don't have to be as reliant on supplements. So in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, I would love to retire our supplement range. I would love for the food system to be giving us what we need and not have to take so many supplements. So that would be the kind of end goal. But in the meantime, it's just kind of being more visible, getting out there, making friends, learning. I think there's so much. What we love about microbes is that they're just fascinating, and they're so exciting, and they can do so many things. So it feels like a kind of exciting place to be learning.
Love that. Love it. And this is what I love so much about doing this. It's because I get to learn from people like you as well. So I'm just coming into this like dumb as hell, like going, what is this? What does it even mean? So it's like an MBA for me, really, a little bit of an MBA and a bit of a health lesson in this one. So if people want to find you, Katie, where can they go and find your products, and where can they find you if they want to connect with you as well?
Yep, so microbz.co.uk is our website. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm doing, in my effort to be more visible, LinkedIn is a inevitable part of that process. And actually I'm finding it relatively fun now that I get to kind of be me rather than, doing it for a business that I used to work for. So yeah, LinkedIn or our website or Instagram. We've got Microbz Probiotic on Instagram. Yeah, I'd love any questions. I'm always open to answering them.
Amazing. Katie, thank you so much for your time. I've really, really enjoyed this conversation, and I wish it could go on a bit longer, actually, because I do have a lot of health questions, personal ones, actually, but we'll maybe save those for another time. But for now, thank you so much for your time. You've been really generous with your time and with your sharing your knowledge about your business as well. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing where Microbz goes from here.
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.